Reagan's UFO speech. There's a speech that President Reagan did where he basically said something along the lines, I'm going to paraphrase it, but he basically said that, you know, all the problems that we have on the earth here where people can't get along with one another. He goes, if we were suddenly confronted with an alien, some kind of an enemy from outside our planet, how quickly would our problems with each other disappear and we'd be able to unify to fight this common enemy? And the best example I can give you of this would be take a look at the Middle East. Uh, the Middle East, the minute we drop troops anywhere in the Middle East, they're basically usually united against us to kick our ass and get us out of there as quickly as they can. Whether they can do it or not is a different thing. They usually unify pretty good when the great white American devils. But as soon as we're gone, then they go back to tribal warfare amongst themselves. Like there's an old movie. It's not. I mean, it's old now. It's called Syriana. It's got Matt Damon and can't think of the other. He was one of the original cast of ER. I can't think of the guy's name. Those guys starred in it. And it's actually loosely based off of the real life of an actual CIA agent. And like, he was asked about it. And by him creating a story in a fictional country of Syriana, he can tell a lot more truth than that than he would be if he actually tried to tell the truth. Because all his stuff has to be approved by the CIA. So he can make up a story that's a hell of a lot more truthful than anything he could tell in the fiction realm. And in there, Matt Damon is working for an oil company. He's over there. It's a Arab prince who is likely going to become king of the country. And he's a reformer. This is a guy that does not want to piss away the oil money. This is not a guy that believes in these medieval religious things. This is a guy that would honestly like to take the money that comes from the oil and make his country better. That's his goal. Well, while they're over there, Matt Damon has two sons that are with him. His whole family's there. And one of his sons drowns in a pool party, and he's understandably upset. And the Arab guy, this is the end of digging in this tunnel. The Arab guy actually feels pretty bad. And what it is, there's a faulty light in the pool. Electrical wires are exposed, and it electrocutes whoever's in it when they turn the lights on. Well, his kid was the only one in it. So what they did was, in honor of the kid, they basically bulldozed over the house, the palace or whatever it was, and they turned it into a memorial park in that kid's honor. And they also want to offer him money. And Matt Damon kind of loses it. He goes, I got another kid. He goes, how much fucking money do you want to give me to kill that one? He was a little offended by the money. And while they get talking, the prince, he basically goes to Matt Damon and he goes, I want you to tell me what you really think. And he goes, you want me to tell you what you really think? You don't want that. And he basically pushes Matt Damon to tell him. And he goes, okay, you want to know what I think? He goes, I think 1,000 years ago, you and your fellow Arabs were killing each other like it was the national sport. And he goes, in 1,000 years when the oil runs out, he goes, I don't think anybody's going to give a shit about you or your little fucking country anymore. And you'll be back to killing yourselves again like it's the national sport. And the guy basically goes, okay, fine. You tell me what you want to do. And he basically lays out a plan for him to take the money he uses and better his country. And in like 10 to 20 years, he'll have solar energy. He'll have industry. He'll have this. He'll have that. He'd actually be a real world country, not a third world shithole with oil. But what happens is this guy bites into it. He's like, okay, that's what I want to do then. And so they use George Clooney. That's the guy playing the CIA agent. They use him to basically, I can't remember if they killed the Arab prince or if they discredited him so that the stupid brother who just basically wants to spend money, bang whores, look at sheep's asses and whatever they fuck they do over there. So he's actually going to be in charge. And it just totally keeps the oil companies in charge, keeps the status quo. And he got used for that. And they set him out to dry. But anyways, there's that thing in there where he's like, yeah, I think you guys were killing yourselves 1,000 years ago, and I think 1,000 years from now, you're going to be right back where you started. Nobody's going to give a shit about you when you don't have any oil anymore. And I saw an interview with the guy that wrote that book, and I'm veering off. I'm hopefully going to get this back into the topic of UFOs. But the guy that wrote the book, he basically said there's a scene in there that was really happened to him, where he had to basically break into some rich guy's house and let him know that if anything happened to him or his son going forward, that he'd already set the wheels in motion with some of his buddies in the intelligence community that he would be killed. He goes, so just let you know, you play your games. If I come up missing, if I do anything but die of old age, you're gonna die. Your fault, my fault, nobody's fault. I'm paraphrasing, but he let that guy know to put a little fear of God into him. And when I saw this interview, they asked him about that scene in there, and he said that sort of happened to me. He goes, I when I started out in the CIA, he goes, I was a patriot. I thought I was doing this for my country. I love my country, and he goes, I had a moment like in that movie where I realized that I was basically being used by the rich and the powerful people who weren't accountable to anybody. And they pretty much did as they pleased because they could set me up to dry. They could set me up for a sacrifice, all just so they could keep that corporate money going. Well, I think this is where I get back into the UFO